All right, got to let it breathe as we get the Facebook groups in here. Hope you all are having a wonderful Friday night. We are waiting. All right. Welcome in, everyone, to Dove Valley Deep Divers on this wonderful Friday night. Joining me tonight is a somewhat newish face. Those of you who've been around for a while may recognize him from a couple of appearances with Chad and Zach a while ago. But Kenneth Booker is joining me tonight. You're a fresh face here on Dove Valley Deep Divers and for the pods in general as a co-host. How are you doing, man? Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and just introduce yourself?
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name's Kenneth. Been a fan of the Broncos since I was, I don't know, like eight or 10. Used to work at the stadium actually during the Peyton years. That was pretty cool. And then just always been a big football fan, and everybody in my family's football fans too. I grew up in Pueblo, where it's like the land of no HOAs, because people will paint like Bronco heads on their garages and paint their houses orange and blue. Not like crazy, but every once in a while you run into a house like that, and it's so that's just kind of how it is where I grew up and how diehard Bronco fans we are.
Yeah, I mean, here in Alaska, it is absolutely crazy the history with the Broncos in it. So when Alaska first got television, it was set to Denver channel, so the Bronco games were always on, and it led to a lot of Bronco fans here in the state, which is one of the coolest facts that I have, anyways, both about the Broncos in Alaska, and that partially led to me being a huge Broncos fan, as well as my family being from Colorado, actually related to the founder of Grand Junction.
Wow.
And a whole lot of history there with my family, but it just kind of became it's in the blood, I guess, is one way to put it. But we have Michael Ronquillo coming in and joining us, saying good evening, Eric and Kenneth on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go Broncos. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. Thank you always for your support. We appreciate it so much. And tonight we are going to be talking about the quarterback situation, PJ Locke's comments about Bo Nix, Bo Nix's surge over the last few days, and just kind of getting into that. And David Cromwell coming in with the $5 donation. Has momentum in the quarterback battle shifted to Bo Nix in recent days? Do you still think he starts week 1? Well, this goes right into the topic. So we'll get into this and then we'll say hello to people here in the chat. And for me, Kenneth, I still think that it is essentially Bo Nix's job to lose because of the investment in him. They used the 12th overall pick on a 24-year-old rookie. You can't really afford to sit him, especially with the contracts that are getting handed out. You need to know what he is sooner rather than later. Quarterbacks typically get that extension after year 3 playing that, or year 4 with the the 5th-year option. Before you hand out the big bucks, at the time Bo Nix is up for an extension, we're probably looking at 65 to 70 million on an average per year basis.
Yeah.
Got to figure out what it is. I do think that momentum has shifted in Bo Nix's favor, but I do think it was always going to be him in the first place. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, he's got to really do terrible for him not to start. He's got to be where the game's just too fast, where he's just rushing everything, and he just looks completely lost out there. If he looks somewhat competent, if it's somewhat close competition, I think they give him the nod. And like you were saying with the contracts, you want to get them on the field as soon as possible because you want to get as many of those cost control years as possible. And you don't want to be in that situation where he has one good year and then you're like, I got to pay this guy, but he only did it 1 year. Do I know if he's really worth this money?
Yeah, I mean, just as Green Bay did with Jordan Love. I mean, they got that 1 year out of him, and then boom, he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now on an average per year basis, second highest. I can't remember exactly where
it's something out there. Yeah,
you just can't have that. And with Bone and with Jarrett Stidham, not trying to throw shade his way, but we know what he is. He's been in the league for a while, and he's never been a quality option as a starting quarterback. He's a fine backup quarterback, but through the practices, when he was even looking good, there were still issues with his play of him, not being overly challenging of the defense, more so taking what the defense was giving him, being this dink and dunk type quarterback that a lot of Bronco fans have grown to hate over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And Bo Nix has been a bit more aggressive. So I do think that I do think he still starts week one. I think he should still start week one, and that momentum has shifted to him. And on that, momentum has completely shifted away from Zach Wilson, even though there should have never been momentum for him to start whatsoever. We were talking about this a little bit before we went live, Kenneth, but what are your thoughts about, Zach Wilson being part of this quarterback battle?
Well, everybody here was super excited when Zach Wilson was coming out of college. We thought he was kind of like a hidden gem, that 1 year BYU, and I was kind of excited. Hopefully, maybe we get him. It didn't end up happening, and a good thing for that because the game is just too fast for the kid. I wish him the best and everything. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I really don't even see him making this roster. It's maybe he'll be a coach one day, but right now he's just not ready for the NFL. It's just a level too high for him.
Yeah, there is so much wrong with his game. I know a lot of people want to point to the Jets coaching staff, especially, Nathaniel Hackett. But when you look into a lot of the advanced analytics around Zach Wilson, even going back to that final year in college, where he was good at with these analytics weren't ones that translate very well to the NFL. So there was always this bit of okay, he can make these splashy plays, but what do we really know? Not to mention he was coming out in COVID year where there, all the issues with that, with what you were able to do pre-draft. So that kind of may have played a hand in him getting a little overdrafted. But I think it's very safe to say, as in my opinion always has been, though, it's a two-man race here. It is Stidham and Nix. And as I said, I still think Nix is the guy. But before we get into the rest of this conversation, we do need to say hello to everyone else in the chat. We have Todd Ossendorf coming in saying, hello, Broncos Country. Hello, Eric and Kenneth. Dylan Von Arx, as always, saying, what's up, Broncos Country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all your platforms, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We have Monica coming in saying, hey, gang, I'm just excited to see the players loving practice and working hard. Chemistry is building right in front of our eyes. Yes, this is one of the things that I like about training camp is even though things can get heated and we did have a little bit of a fight, you are really seeing chemistry build at certain positions on the offensive, defensive lines in particular during this time. And that is one of the great things of training camp for me to watch and see develop, and then seeing that translate to the regular season. Kenneth, when you are, reading about the practices or able to catch them, what is it that you really like to see from the guys?
Yeah, just those reps, and staying healthy. That's the worst when you're waiting all summer for your team to play and get ready, and they start off and they're not even playing. And then the fights, yeah, they're never good. But the one silver lining is it just shows that they care. Mm-hmm. Like they really want to do good out there, and somebody's getting in their way, so they'll do whatever they can to be the victor or whatever that chosen player or whatnot on that day. But yeah, just looking for that camaraderie getting built, just like Monica was saying. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and with those fights, it's as you said, these are passionate men out there that are playing a very physical sport, and sometimes they just get a little, over aggressive, leading to these little scrimmages and everything. At least it wasn't a full-on brawl as we've seen with some of the other teams over recent years and with another team this year. So it's a good thing that, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying it's a good thing to have these fights, but it's a good thing that they're keeping them small and they're taking that step back and calming down before it gets really out of hand.
Yeah.
We also have Roy Osborne coming in saying, good evening, Eric, and welcome, Kenneth. I read your stuff and I do like your reads. Chase Wellner coming in, recognizing you as a true MHH OG.
Thanks, Chase.
William saying, Eric said he's starting the whole time. I've said it's my belief he should be the starter. I don't think I've ever said that he is the starter, at least on the show anyways. Graham coming in saying he's got to be Paxton Lynch-esque, talking about, I believe, Bo Nix here in losing the job, and I fully agree with that.
I see that.
And then Peter Middleton coming in saying, good morning from Singapore.
Oh,
Well,
Wow.
thank you for joining us from all that way. Shows that, Broncos country is not a geographical location, but a state of being. We appreciate you, Peter, joining in from
That's awesome.
from so many different places in the world. And Ernie May saying hello, and hello, Eric and Kenneth. Go Broncos country only. Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely don't want to say go. What is it? Raiders Nation, Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, Raiders. I used to always make fun of the Raiders. They're like that uncle that keeps getting kicked out of your family's house. Like they started out in Oakland, then they went to LA, then back to Oakland, Vegas. Pretty soon they'll be like in, I don't know, Tijuana or something. But it's crazy how many times they've moved.
So this is an actual question because I don't know. What is it for the one Chargers fan out there? Like Raiders Nation, Broncos country, Chiefs Kingdom. For the one Chargers fan, what is it?
Yeah, it's insane that they're fans. They have no fans. You go to the stadium, it's just all Broncos. It's like an orange stadium.
There's a lot of away team colored jerseys. The one Scott saying bolt up. The one Charger fan does need to bolt up. Anyways, getting back to this quarterback competition, PJ Locke made a comment about Bo Nix. And he was asked the question, I believe it was yesterday, about what kind of stress Bo Nix puts on the secondary. And this is what he had to say. And I quote, "Right now, what I notice from Bo is he's a good look off guy. He's really good looking off. Even in OTAs, I was like, man, I just cannot get a beat off of him. Most of the time, rookie quarterbacks, their first read, they're going to look at it. Here, he'll look you off real quick. I think he studies the safeties. He can tell we're super instinctive. We try to play games with him, so he tries to play games back. That's what I've noticed off the rip. He can throw the pill. He can throw it," unquote. So this to me is a major vote of confidence for Bo Nix. And, when you hear players talk, they always, they always hype up their teammates. We all remember Von Miller talking about Joe Flacco's the guy. No, Trevor Simeon's the guy. No, Paxton Lynch. No, Case Keenum. Everybody was the guy at quarterback for him. But to me, with the PJ Locke specifically highlighting his ability to look off these safeties suggests to me that it's just a little bit more than, that defensive player hyping up the young quarterback or even the quarterback in general. And that is great to see from me, or great to hear from me. Kenneth, what do you make of PJ Locke's comments?
It just shows that the game is it hasn't all the way slowed down for Bo Nix, of course. He's still going to got a ton to grow, but it showed that it's slower than most rookie quarterbacks. To be able to incorporate that into your play where you don't feel like you're rushed, to where you just got to straight to that guy, throw it to that guy. He's got that little extra split second to look it off and still know what's going on with the play he actually wants to go to. It's really encouraging because I don't know. I just see him. I see him just being a really good guy in the film room, and it's showing on the field, according to PJ Locke.
Yeah, and one thing helping Bo Nix is the 61 collegiate starts he has under.
Oh yeah,
and I mean
his dad too, bringing a legend coach and player.
Yeah, so it's great to hear this, because granted, Bo Nix has, all those starts and that experience. There are quarterbacks that can enter the NFL with that kind of experience and still struggle with this. This can often be one of those big issues that quarterbacks have when translating to the NFL. So the fact he's already doing it is a good sign. And as many viewers know, I have not been the highest person in the world on Bo Nix and his selection for the Broncos. But this is a good sign of him being on his way to proving my opinions about him wrong. Of course, we still have to go out there and see it translate to an actual NFL game, but it's a good step forward for him. It's a good step that PJ Locke is recognizing this. And also, one thing in this quote that I like as well is how he essentially is saying that him and the other safeties are doing whatever they can to still confuse him.
Yeah.
And because there was, I can't remember his name from a few years ago, there was a safety who he got up there and he talked about how he was asked the question about the communication in the safety room. And he basically goes on to say, we're a bunch of individuals doing our own individual thing. And this
Okay.
was, I believe, the second year under Vance Joseph. And so we haven't heard that kind of what's the right word here? I can't think of the right word to put it, but it basically is showing that they are a unit, they are a group, they are working together, and it's just nice to hear them do this publicly, and that you don't always get when after in postseason and post practice press conferences.
That was a hard one to say. Peter Piper Pizza. Yeah, it's really good that it seems like they're already starting to get trust in him, and then he's already exceeding their expectations. We'll see how it pans out, and because I also was a little iffy on Nix at 12, but of course Atlanta Falcons ruined that for us when they took Penix. I thought we could have got him a little bit later, but it is what it is, and hopefully he's a franchise quarterback of the future. He's definitely got the work ethic, the family who all play football, his dad, his brother, and the determination and the poise. He just seems like he's a grounded dude. It's super happy where he's at, but at the same time is wanting to get better every day. He's a family man, so he's not out partying and stuff like that with everybody. So everything seems really well for him. So we'll see how it pans out. But I get a little more excited every day I see him. So
yeah, and there's a guy that I talked to or I follow anyways, and he's been talking about he's been there at practices, and he's wasn't super high on Bo Nix, but he is another one that's starting to kind of buy into it a little bit more with what he is seeing at camp. Phil McLaughlin coming in saying, "Good evening, Eric, Kenneth, and Deacon Scott. What's up with the signing of Camp Moyer? I think is how you say the name. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. I apologize for that. I will say that every single time I say a name that I feel I say incorrectly. Just another body for the tight end room. Hashtag Buckham. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Broncos for life." For me, yeah, the coming into camp tight end was a little thin because there was the 5 players, I think. So they needed to add another body. I've always felt that. They waived the one undrafted rookie defensive lineman. And it's not the biggest signing in the world, but Lance and I a couple weeks ago, we talked about some signings or some moves they should make, and tight end was one of them. But as much as we could have wanted a bigger tight end, there wasn't a whole lot available. So why not take a shot on a guy who's, I believe, is entering his 3rd year in the NFL, who has had some plays here and there, and just bet on the upside of him? What is for you? Is Camp Moyer just another body for the tight end room, or do you think could be more there for him?
I mean, you never know. I've actually never really heard of the guy until I found out about the signing. So we'll see. Hopefully he can provide a great blocker, somebody who can pick up the scheme fast, and somebody good in special teams. But we'll see. Only time will tell.
And he did play football at Oregon, but he was not there crossing over with Bo Nix. He entered the NFL a year before Bo Nix arrived. So that is, just worth noting there. I remember watching him coming out of college, and he was just kind of was a bit of a in between, not really an inline tight end blocker type, but not really a move tight end either. So it's a little bit curious. I'm wondering what kind of role they envision for him, but I do like that they are adding to the room, as I said just a few minutes ago, and just adding more competition for them, because this is a young room. Adam Trotman's the veteran. Greg Dulcich has had issues staying healthy. Lucas Kroll has to develop. Nate Atkins has to develop. And then I feel like there's another Thomas Yassam, the undrafted rookie out of Utah, who is the foreign international, IPP international player. Anyways, he's got the international exemption to be on the roster, so he doesn't actually count. It's just nice that they're adding yet another tight end for this. And then Mark P coming in, switching back to Bo Nix. The real test for Bo will come when he plays his first game against an unfriendly defense who wants to rip his heart out. Right now, the Broncos D is playing him soft for fear of injuring him. I don't know about you, Kenneth, but from everything that I have heard from practice, I don't think the Broncos D is playing him soft in fear of hurting him because they have been all over him, especially when the pads came on.
Yeah, it just seems like they're trying to push him to see how far they can push him before he cracks. He seems to be handling the pressure, makes his mistakes, but learns from them. And then then he doesn't have too much competition. I mean, it's Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. So maybe that's another layer of confidence that he has, that he knows that if he plays the way he knows he can play, he's got the job sewed up. So
yeah, and we have Peter Middleton coming in. Gonna start taking some questions here from the chat before we get out of here. Peter Middleton saying, so who's the new Broncos new swing tackle going to be now? I'm assuming that you are referencing the injury to Quinn Bailey. Quinn Bailey wasn't the backup swing tackle. He was the sixth offensive lineman, the sixth blocker they bring on, but they viewed him as a guard from what I have understood. It is still a battle for the backup swing tackle between Alex Palczewski, Matt Pert, Demontre Jacobs, and Frank Crum, with it likely being Alex Palczewski. But Quinn Bailey, the injury, unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him that, he's got hurt because they were looking at him for a pretty sizable, I don't want to say sizable role, but they had a clear role defined for him. And he gets hurt, and now they're trying to replace who's that sixth offensive lineman, that sixth block going to be when they go into the pressure or to their big packages, their jumbo packages, and see how things go. Adam Strange comes in and says, has center been settled? The center position is one that is interesting.
Sorry.
It hasn't been settled. It hasn't been centered. It hasn't been settled by any means. But from multiple accounts, it is that Luke Wattenberg is really starting to separate himself from the other centers. Alex Forsyth is being, from what I understand, the clear number 2 guy, with Sam Mustipher, the clear number 3, who is unlikely to make this roster. But with how it seems, Kenneth, it seems like this is Luke Wattenberg's job to lose at this point.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of Bronco fans are going to be down about it because the Forsyth Nix Oregon connection. But you just want the best player out there. And it's always good to have your second option as somebody who's really familiar with your quarterback. So for some reason, if Wattenberg doesn't he doesn't play up to what he needs to do, or he suffers an injury, there's an easy switch out. But saying that, like, either choice, they're wait and see choices. We'll see. Hopefully it pounds out really well, but I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on the center situation. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I did hear, and I talked about it last week with Wattenberg, is that he just seems to be, have taken it to the next level when it comes to the pre-snap stuff, really. The stuff with the football IQ, recognizing different things, calling it out, the communication, that seems to be even more so where the separation is, because he has struggled. He got beat by Zach Allen last week. I believe he got beat by Malcolm Roach or DJ Jones a practice or two ago. So it's definitely the play has definitely been, back and forth, and creating that opening for Alex Forsyth to step back in and take some of this conversation, or gains ground in this competition. But it just seems to be the mental side of it. And with the center position, especially with how little one-on-ones they actually take in the NFL nowadays, the mental side of it is such a key factor when you are trying to figure out who your starting center is going to be, especially if your starting quarterback is either a rookie or Jarrett Stidham, with having a center who can help take pressure off of them with some calls at the line.
Yeah, and just hold up in the pass protection as well from the pocket collapsing. I knew everybody's fan favorite Drew Locke ran into a situation where his pocket was collapsing initially, and it sent him to scramble early all the time because of it. And it happened so much that it was like a thing where he just assumed it was going to happen. So he would take off running before it even collapsed. And so if you can get a guy who can hold up in there and let the guy settle in the pocket or step up into little lanes, that's what we need right now.
Now you mentioned Drew Locke, and I just have to ask: have you heard the Philip Lindsay comments about him?
No, I haven't. I'm interested.
So Philip Lindsay, sometime I believe last week is when it was. He went on a radio show and he was talking about it. He highlighted a specific play, and they were specifically he was specifically addressing Drew Locke's lack of football IQ. So
Oh,
it
okay.
was a 3rd-and-1 play against the Los Angeles Chargers, and Melvin Ingram starts calling out the play. He starts calling that it's going to be a toss off the left tackle to Philip Lindsay. And they're calling it out. Dalton Reisner looks back at Locke and tells him, you need to change the play. Lindsay was like, I shouted up, say, hey, let's change it to this. And he was like, I basically was calling for a dive up the middle because they opened up a lane in the middle that I could at least pick up 1 yard. And Locke looks back at me and says, nah, we're good. Says hike, tosses me the ball, and it's a 4-yard loss. And it was probably one of the most damning things against Drew Locke that has been said publicly, and just a lot of what has been said here through the different podcasts. But we're going to be getting out of here shortly. We're going to be getting out of here a little bit early. Again, I have some stuff that I have to go get taken care of instead of being able to be here for a full hour. Hope next week should be back to our normal times. But before we get to that, Mark P coming in, still playing against your own defense in practice. It's much different than playing your opponent's defense in a real game. We are talking another level. It should be fun to watch. It is another level because in practice, you can't hit the quarterback. You touch them and it's a sack. In actual games, you can actually hit them. You can actually sack them. That is obviously a huge difference because you do whatever you can to protect players in defense. So yes, it is another level, but it's still not necessarily playing them soft. They're still throwing all sorts of different looks at him, all different sorts of pressure packages, doing everything they can to rattle him. And while there have been some mistakes, he has stepped up. But yes, it is going to be fun to watch him on August 11th, where he will likely play, I believe, against the Indianapolis Colts in the first preseason game. Kenneth, we'll be able to talk about this more next week, but how excited are you for actual football to be back, even if it's preseason? I mean, we had the kickoff for the Hall of Fame game last night, and it is finally here. Actual football is back.
Yeah, it's like bittersweet. It's like football's back, but summer's almost over kind of thing. But it's the best time to go to the games. You're not freezing. You get to see all your favorite new players that got drafted. Yeah, it's an exciting part of the year for sure, and leading up into the actual regular season. So I'm pretty excited. Excited for the meet and greet game against Pittsburgh, and kind of want to start a chant where we do the countdown, the 10, 9, 8, 7 on him, but it will start it at 5 so that he thinks he actually has 5 more seconds.
On that, I tuned in a little bit to, I believe it was last night, to Zach and Chad, and Zach was making a comment about that, about how the incomplete chants are going to be just a little bit louder in this one. And yeah. I 100% agree. Everything is going to be a little bit louder, because one thing, the moment he was released, for the most part, a lot of Bronco fans, immediately turned on him. He's still the quarterback. Obviously, you still have many Bronco fans are still going to defend him. But as soon as he's gone, it's like they no longer have to defend him. We can now, he's fair game essentially. And it has not been, from what I understand, the best of showings from him in the Steelers camp so far when he has been able to partake, has been dealing with an injury. And from a few Steelers guys that I really trust in the media, they've really been hyping up Justin Fields actually winning that quarterback competition. So
maybe it'll be Russ that's returning kicks then. But yeah, I was super high on Russ coming out of college. I watched him at Wisconsin and the Poise, and then I was wondering why he wasn't going to be drafted like way earlier, and I realized how tall he was. And then he played well, and then they did really well against us. And I was super excited when they got him, and I don't know, it was like somebody's been pouring something in his water every day, and he just forgets a little bit more football every day, and it's kind of a sad decline. And I wish him the best for him over in the Steelers, but until they play us, then I don't and I hope we crush him, whatever. But yeah, it's a kind of a sad situation with that guy.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. I mean, there was a lot of excitement in Broncos country when we landed Russell Wilson. I was one of the little ones that was a little bit more skeptical because there were some signs of decline, but no one was expecting to get what we got out of Russ. No one. That was a lot worse than what we got out of him. So it's going to be interesting to see him if he ends up being the starter, if he ends up being healthy. Obviously, a lot can happen between now and that week 2 game, I believe it is from the Steelers for the meet and greet. I am going to be dying. It is going to be so hot for me. Yeah, I'm going to be a puddle. Just melt because it's going to be so hot. But I'm excited. I always enjoy the meet and greets. I'm excited to see everybody, all the fans who show up, all the the other Mile High Huddle people that are all going. It's always a fun time. It's always a good time just getting around to sit and chat and talk with different people.
I'm still trying to get the Broncos for breakfast guys to bring breakfast. Some pancakes or something.
Yeah, it's definitely gotta bring something. I mean, the Broncos for breakfast, guys. So yeah, maybe some coffee or something.
Yeah.
You guys are both you and Scott and Nick are both big coffee guys. So maybe some coffee, even though I don't drink coffee. Before we get out of here, just real quick, how's your fitness program going, Eric? Hey, Eric, you're looking good. How's the weight loss going? It's going great, actually. One of my smaller goals was to be under 300 pounds by the time of the meet and greet. I stepped on the scale this morning and I was under 310. It is very achievable. I am very close to my smaller goal here. I am almost 50 pounds down from where I started. Wow. So it's going great. And thank you guys, everyone, for checking in on that and everything. It's been it's definitely hard. Changing your eating habits and everything. It's difficult. Especially when you like me. I love cake. I love sweet stuff. And getting over that has been tough. But I talked about this with Lance, and I don't want to start a long conversation about this. But finding healthier alternatives is always such a crucial part of it. Finding, was a big soda drinker. I would drink a 12-pack of soda in like 2 or 3 days. I changed it completely. I don't drink them very often. I have 0 sugar or diet soda now, maybe 1 a day, if that. Finding some good tasting protein bars that are helping me not feel hungry or snackish, or peckish or anything like that. It's always been great. I have slipped off the workout aspect of it a little bit that I got to get back into, but my body's been in a little bit of pain, but it's all doing that. But guys, that's going to do it for us. Kenneth, it's been great having you on. It was great talking to you and everything. It's going to be exciting times for you and I on Friday nights going forward. I'm excited. I hope you are as well.
Definitely.
Thank you everyone in the chat for jumping in. Before we get out of here, make sure this is the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Of course, make sure you are following us on Twitter, the MHH Pod, as well as the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast, DVDD_pod. Make sure you're following the mothership account at Mile High Huddle. That's where you can get access to all our shows, any videos, any live shows, anything like that. Make sure you're following us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys can and are able to do so, make sure you check out the merch store, mhhmerch.com. You can get some cool hats like this, some shirts, and different kind of gear. I think we have coffee mugs and a bunch of stuff. Make sure you're following us on
the coffee mug.
Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Mile High Huddle with an underscore between mile and high and an underscore between high and a huddle. Make sure you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some swag each month. And of course, if you are unable to support financially, there are 3 things you can do that only cost a matter of seconds. You can subscribe, you can like, and you can share. This helps us so much with the algorithms and so just helping us spread to greater heights. Michael Creel coming in with a great show, or great ending to the show, saying, "Great show tonight, Eric and Kenneth on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go Broncos." Definitely go Broncos. And before we get out of here, Kenneth, any final words?
No, enjoy your weekends. Get ready for some football. try to get outside and be active while it's still pretty nice outside. And looking forward to being on the show on Fridays from now on. I'm pretty excited about it, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's always a great time to get down and just talk Broncos football. Especially, I don't know how it is with you, but the people around me aren't the biggest football fans in my personal life. So this is a nice outlet to, talk football, talk Broncos.
I work with engineers and they're like irritated when I bring up any sports.
Understandable. But guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys to all of you who super chatted or starred. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate your guys' support. We both hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys stay safe. We will see you same time, same Mile High Huddle channel next week. Have a great one.